Imagine someone followed you for the last 30 days. Not to judge you, not to spy on you, just to observe. They watched every conversation you had, every notification you opened, every meeting you attended, every video you watched, every promise you made, every time you said, "I'll do it later." What if you've never actually chosen what matters in your life? Not because you're lazy, not because you lack discipline, but because your attention has been quietly shaped by people, platforms, expectations, and habits that benefit from deciding for you. The invisible theft of your attention, inspired by Focus on What Matters by Darius Foroux. Now imagine they had to answer one question. What matters most to this person? Would they point to your dreams, your family, your health, your purpose? Or would they point to your inbox, your notifications, and the endless stream of urgent things that quietly decided your days? Because maybe the greatest tragedy isn't that we don't know what matters. Maybe it's that our attention tells a completely different story. And if attention is the currency of a life, what have you really been spending yours on? This investigation isn't about becoming more productive. It's about something far more unsettling. What if you've never actually chosen what matters? Sarah would tell you she's doing well. She arrives before everyone else, leaves after sunset. Her calendar is full weeks in advance. Colored blocks stretch from morning to evening like a city skyline. People admire her. "You're incredible," they say. "I don't know how you do it." Neither does she. One evening, after answering her last email, Sarah notices something unusual. The office is silent. Outside, the parking lot is empty. Her coffee has gone cold. She opens her phone to call her sister, then remembers the birthday dinner she promised to attend. It was yesterday. She stares at the screen, not because she forgot, because she can't remember what replaced it. Across town, David is convinced he's almost figured life out. His desk is spotless. His planner is immaculate. Every hour has a purpose. He measures his sleep, tracks his habits, optimizes his mornings. Every Sunday, he builds the perfect week. Every Friday, he wonders why it still doesn't feel like his life is moving forward. So he does what many of us do. He searches for another system, another app, another morning routine, certain that the next one will finally unlock the future he's chasing. But what if becoming more efficient only helps you run faster? In the wrong direction. Most of us believe distraction is the problem. That if we were just more disciplined, more organized, more motivated, everything would fall into place. It's comforting to believe that, because if discipline is the problem, the solution seems simple. Try harder, wake up earlier, download another productivity app, read another book. But every year, millions of people become more efficient, while quietly feeling less fulfilled. So maybe we've been diagnosing the wrong disease. Maybe distraction isn't the enemy. Maybe it's evidence. Evidence that something much deeper is happening beneath the surface. Then there's Amina. Everyone depends on her. Students, friends, family, colleagues. She has a remarkable ability to make people feel seen. The strange part is, she hasn't felt seen herself in years. Every request receives the same answer. "Of course. No problem. I'll make time." She says it so often that she no longer notices what those words cost her. One evening, her daughter asks a simple question. "Mom, what do you actually like doing?" Amina smiles, opens her mouth, and realizes she doesn't know how to answer. 3 different lives, 3 different stories, 3 intelligent people. None of them are lazy. None of them lack ambition. So why do they all feel as though something essential keeps slipping through their fingers? Is it bad time management? Poor discipline? Or is there an invisible force shaping their days long before they ever decide how to spend them? And if that force exists, who or what is benefiting from it? Every morning begins with a choice. Or at least, that's what it feels like. Sarah wakes up to a phone vibrating on her bedside table. 1 message from work, 3 promotional emails, a calendar reminder, 2 news alerts, a friend sharing a video. She hasn't even stepped out of bed. Yet 6 different people and platforms have already asked for her attention before she's had a single independent thought. She answers the work message first. It feels responsible, necessary, professional. By the time she puts the phone down, 20 minutes have disappeared. She can't remember what she originally picked it up for. Not because she forgot, because something else decided what mattered first. Across town, David sits in front of his laptop. He opens his task manager, then his email, then a message from his team. A notification appears. Another one follows. He tells himself it'll only take a minute. 40 minutes later, he finally returns to the project that mattered most. Nothing dramatic happened. No emergency. No crisis. Just dozens of tiny decisions. Each one so small it felt harmless. Each one quietly changing the direction of his day. That's how attention is usually lost. Not all at once. 1 interruption at a time. Amina's story is different. Or so she believes. She isn't distracted by technology. She's distracted by expectations. A colleague needs a favor. A neighbor asks for help. A family member calls. Someone wants just 5 minutes. She says yes again and again. People praise her generosity. What they never see is the life she keeps postponing to make room for everyone else's. At first, these stories don't seem connected. One is about work, another about productivity, another about relationships. But Marcus can't shake the feeling that they are all trapped inside the same invisible pattern. He starts carrying a notebook, not to write answers, to collect questions. 1 page simply says, who benefits when people never stop reacting? Another asks, why does urgency always feel more convincing than importance? Then he notices something unsettling. Every system around him rewards attention. Social media rewards attention. Advertising buys attention. News competes for attention. Streaming platforms measure attention. Companies celebrate responsiveness. Even the people who love us often ask for more of it. Attention has become one of the most valuable resources on Earth. Not oil, not gold, not even time. Attention, because whoever shapes your attention gradually shapes your decisions, and your decisions become your life. Marcus isn't suggesting that phones are evil, or that work is the enemy, or that helping people is a mistake. The real danger is much quieter. It's living so reactively that you never stop to ask whether the life you're building is actually your own. That's when he stumbles across an idea from writer Darius Foroux. Not a productivity trick, not another morning routine. A simple but unsettling observation. Most people don't need more time. They need more clarity about what truly deserves it. That's the heart of focus on what matters. Not doing more, choosing better. The book doesn't begin by asking how to become more productive. It asks a much more uncomfortable question. If everything feels important, is anything truly important? Suddenly, Sarah's forgotten birthday doesn't look like poor planning. David's endless optimization doesn't look like ambition. Amina's constant availability doesn't look like kindness alone. They all look like symptoms. Symptoms of a world where the loudest demand often defeats the deepest value. Maybe you've spent the last few minutes thinking about Sarah, or David, or Amina. Maybe you recognize someone you work with, a friend, a family member. But what if we've been investigating the wrong people? What if the real investigation has been happening much closer to home? Think about yesterday. Not your biggest achievement, not your longest meeting, just your attention. Who decided where it went? You. Or whatever shouted the loudest. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people believe they're managing their attention, when in reality, they are simply responding to whoever asks for it first. And those are two very different lives. The moment you stop asking, what should I do next? And start asking, what actually deserves my attention? You've already begun changing the direction of your life. Marcus closes his notebook, not because he's found every answer, because he finally understands the right question. It was never, how can I become more productive? It was always, what kind of life am I creating with my attention? At first, that question seems almost too simple. Until you realize, every answer becomes a decision. Sarah walks into the office the next morning. Nothing has changed. The same hallway, the same computer, the same overflowing inbox, the same meetings waiting on her calendar. She opens her schedule, stares at it for a long moment. Then she does something that feels almost impossible. She cancels one meeting, not because it isn't useful, because it isn't essential. The world doesn't fall apart. Nobody panics. No crisis unfolds. She simply creates 1 hour that belongs to her again. For the first time in years, her calendar reflects a choice, not just a reaction. David sits at his desk that evening. The productivity app he downloaded only a week ago flashes a reminder. Optimize tomorrow. He smiles, then closes it. Not because planning is bad, but because he's finally realized something. You can organize a life that isn't yours. You can color code distractions. You can automate obligations. You can become incredibly efficient at living according to everyone else's priorities. He opens a blank notebook instead. At the top of the page, he writes just one question. If I could accomplish only one meaningful thing today, what would it be? The page stays mostly empty. For the first time, that's exactly how it should be. Amina's change is quieter than the others. A friend calls with another last-minute request. Her hand instinctively reaches for the phone. The old answer rises automatically. Of course, but this time, she pauses, not because she loves her friend less, because she's finally begun respecting her own life too. She says something she's never said before. I can't today. There's an awkward silence. Then something unexpected happens. The friendship survives. The guilt fades. And that evening, Amina picks up an old sketchbook she hadn't opened in 12 years. She laughs, Not because she's become a different person, because she's remembered someone she'd almost forgotten. Marcus watches all of this unfold, not as a hero, not as a teacher, just as someone who finally understands the pattern. People rarely lose their lives through one catastrophic decision. They lose them quietly. 5 distracted minutes, 1 unnecessary meeting, another promise made without thinking, 1 more evening spent reacting instead of choosing. Each moment feels insignificant until years have passed, and the life they meant to build exists only in future tense. That's why Darius Foroux doesn't argue that you need to control every minute. His message is more human than that. You don't need to win every battle for your attention. You simply need to become conscious of the battles you're fighting, because awareness changes everything. The moment you notice what is competing for your attention, you regain the power to choose. And choice is where freedom begins. Remember the question from the beginning. If someone watched the last 30 days of your life, what would they say mattered most to you? Not what you believe, not what you hope, what your attention proved. It's an uncomfortable question, but maybe that's why it matters. Because attention never lies. Your calendar tells a story. Your screen time tells a story. Your habits tell a story. The question is whether they're telling your story or someone else's. Tomorrow morning, your phone will light up. Emails will arrive. Headlines will compete for your attention. Someone will tell you what's urgent. An algorithm will decide what it wants you to notice. None of those things will have changed, but something else can. The person who decides what deserves your attention. Because every notification you answer, every meeting you accept, every hour you spend scrolling, every promise you make is a vote for the person you're becoming. And that's the part most people never realize. Your life isn't built in years. It isn't built in goals. It isn't even built in days. It's built one decision of attention at a time. So before tomorrow asks for your attention, ask yourself one question. Who deserves my next vote?